What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. It's the best one, Donnie, here with...
What is going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling. And Donnie has gotten me into something that I'm not even quite sure I'm capable enough of doing this. But what's going on, man?
That's right. So, on the We Are Wrestling channel, we like to try doing different things on here. And we decided that we are going to be ranking every Royal Rumble winner on a tier maker list. This is the first, episode of We Are Wrestling Rank 'em, where, we rank stuff from best to worst. And we're going to start this off on Rumble Week, baby, where we got nothing but Rumble content coming out to you guys all week long here on the We Are Wrestling channel. But if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, the best way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button now, turning on the post notifications. Videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO. And of course, you already know the grind is real. And with this Rumble ranking list, we're just going to put it out there. Obviously, Danny and I have not watched every single Rumble, but the things that I'm going to consider when I'm ranking these wrestlers, especially old school ones, how were their careers after they won the Rumble? Because, of course, when you win the Royal Rumble, you go on to main event WrestleMania, and it's a big, spot when you win the Rumble match. So that's something I'm really going to be considering, how the booking decisions were for that person, after winning the Rumble. And, of course, how we feel about, the current wrestler that won.
Hey, man, I don't know how well we're going to do, but let's do it, man.
Let's do it, baby. All right, so the way that we have this ranking system, we have 5 tiers. The best, lovely, 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 all right, just about bearable, and get in the bin, which means needs to go in the trash, horrible booking decision, like Vince McMahon has been doing like the last couple of years.
Alberto Del Rio!
Oh yeah, that one's definitely like
I was at that Rumble, man, when Alberto won. I cannot tell you how many people were legitimately like upset.
Is there a lower category than get in the bin for Del Rio? We'll just start off right there. Del Rio is probably the worst Royal Rumble winner of all time.
I would have picked Eugene over Alberto.
Honestly, I would have picked Rosie over Alberto Del Rio. Even Big Dick Johnson, I would have picked him over Alberto.
You guys say I look like Big Dick Johnson, man.
All right, so starting off with, the first Rumble winner, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I believe this was 1988.
Yeah, man. Hacksaw, he's a legend. I unfortunately have never seen that Rumble. I have this weird thing. Like, I started watching pro wrestling in 97. Bad Blood in 97 was the first show I actually watched. And it was actually the debut of Kane. And so I have this weird thing about going back in time because, like, a lot of the performers from like the 80s and early 90s, like a lot of them are passed away. So it just makes me like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's weird to me watching guys wrestle that are potentially dead. You know what I mean? And that's not me being an asshole. That's just me, like, spitting facts. But Hacksaw Jim Duggan, great dude. I believe he just like stopped a burglary at his house recently, and like, he's beating cancer, and the dude is like a legend in more ways than one, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's the thing, like Chaz and I, we talk about it on our series, We Are Wrestling Old School versus New School. And a lot of people, I feel like, that are like new school wrestling fans from the Attitude Era and above, the reason why it's so hard for a lot of them to get into the old school wrestling is because there is, 50 years of history with territories and other stuff. And you have to consider as well the pace. During old school, yes, the characters were bigger than life, but when it comes down to it, realistically, the pace of the wrestling matches for me personally were very slow, so I can't really enjoy the matches as much as I would, in late 90s, now.
Yep.
I feel like
Yeah,
nowadays it's a little too fast, but like around like Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, the pace was like absolutely perfect.
exactly. Like, and like I like gimmicks just as much as everybody else, but I also like the ruthlessness of the Attitude Era. You know
I
what I
got a good
mean?
term for you, and I think Eric Bischoff said it best when he formed the NWO. You
What?
like the reality, you like the real. You don't like the cartoons as much as the real life characters.
Bro, when Hulk Hogan was at his highest, man, they made fucking cereal boxes with his picture on it. Like, you know.
Hulkamania was running wild in the 80s and the 90s, brother.
I like, Big Boss Man, like, when he was making fun of Big Show because his dad passed away and they had that whole funeral procession and, Big Show like climbing on the casket or whatever, and Big Boss Man like, driving the casket away from like the cemetery. Like,
Mhm.
I like the ruthlessness and the realism of what the Attitude Era was, and that's why I like it so much.
And that totally makes sense. So, with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, being the first Rumble winner, here's the problem with my ranking for this one. I would either put him on all right or just about bearable. And the reason why I
Mhm.
say just about bearable was not because of the performer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, because he never really became a world champion. He was never really
Yep.
in the main event picture around the time.
I would put him in all right. Like he's still a legend. I feel like when it comes to like, like the old school stuff like the WWE from like the 80s and early 90s or whatever, I feel like the lowest you can is just about bearable because of how
Mhm.
legendary that time frame was in professional
You're
wrestling.
No, that's a
You know
really
what I
good
mean?
you do make a very good point, and I also have to consider the WWF Championship wasn't, like, one of the WrestleMania things at that time. It started in
Mhm.
'93 with Yokozuna, so I
Yeah.
do have to consider that too. Moving on now, we have another, Hall of Famer, Big John Studd.
Big John said, "Man, I used to have a toy of this dude, man.
I did too. I had a Classic Superstars one.
Big beefy blonde-headed dude like,
I'm gonna say with Big John Studd, I'm gonna put him under alright, I think. That's a good spot.
you don't want to put him in lovely, lovely, lovely."
No, I think Big John Studd's all right. He wasn't really like a big main eventer around the time. I think keeping
Yep.
him in the middle probably the best solution.
That's the problem with doing this is because the Royal Rumble has become something of like what legends are made of in a sense. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, like
Mhm.
you win you win the Rumble, you go on to WrestleMania, potentially you have a chance at getting the world title that everybody wants. I feel like around this time, like you were just talking about, like until '93, the Royal Rumble wasn't like that. So it's really hard to like just because you win the Rumble around in like the late '80s or even like '91 and '92, like you really there wasn't really much to it. It wasn't like
You weren't
you
fighting
win
for anything except
e- e-
winning the Rumble. I
exactly. So I feel like that's gonna make like up until we get to Yokozuna is gonna make it really hard to decipher
Mhm.
which category to put each participant.
I absolutely agree with you, and I believe I said this actually yesterday on Old School versus New School with, the Rumble matches. They were building the foundation for it, so of course, these
Mhm.
Rumble matches weren't perfect right away. They were building, the foundation to this tradition that we love watching every single year, which we'll be watching on Saturday, on January 28th,
And
live.
don't forget to vote, man. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we are going to be tallying up the votes and figuring out what Rumble match we're going to be watching on Thursday. So go to the community
Live,
tab.
baby.
Go to the community tab right now and vote and see what we're going to see what Rumble match we're going to be watching. We're not going to watch the entire show. That'll be big, but
Just a Rumble match.
we are going to watch the Rumble match, man. So
And of course,
go and vote
interact
on
with
the
you. We are
community.
Wrestling Maniacs as well.
Exactly, man. So go and vote on the community tab right here on We Are Wrestling.
That's right. So now getting into 1999, we had Hulk Hogan, brother, his first Royal Rumble win. Where do you think we
Oh,
should put Hulk Hogan?
what category would you put what was it, Mr. Nanny, or what's that movie that he was in where he plays like a fucking nanny? He babysits those kids. What was
Ooh,
it?
that I don't really know. with the movies. Like I know he had one movie with like Zeus, like no holes barred.
Yeah, but he
Like
legitimately played like a nanny, and he was like wearing like a fucking like a pink apron and like legitimately like taking care of these kids or whatever. I can't remember the name of the movie. It's like Mr. Nanny or something like that.
mhm. I think with Hulk Hogan, like both years, 1990 and 1991, I'd say lovely, lovely, lovely.
I
Just
would,
just because of
you
the
know,
legend he is.
I would put the best, and I say that because even today, bro, like we're in 2023. There's not been another performer that really has been on the same stratosphere when it comes to pro wrestling as Hulk Hogan. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that is true. Here's the thing. I think 1990 should be lovely, lovely, lovely. 1991 should be the best because that's I remember, watching
Yeah.
his match with Sergeant Slaughter and, having that feud, with the America.
I just feel like I agree with that, but I just feel like with Hulk Hogan, you know, he surpassed he even if people didn't watch pro wrestling, they knew Hulk Hogan. Hulkamania was running wild on fucking everybody, bro.
Yeah, no, Hulk Hogan's got to be the best. You're absolutely right on that one. Like he was, I feel like the first big winner in a Royal Rumble match.
And it,
Nothing
he
against Hacksaw or Big John Studd.
The only other person I feel like in the pro wrestling world that is bigger than Hulk Hogan is The Rock.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good take right
Like,
there. Yeah.
like if you didn't watch pro wrestling, like you don't know who Jake the Snake is. You didn't know who Hacksaw Jim Duggan is. You knew who the fuck Hulk Hogan was. You know what I mean? So I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
you gotta decipher, a little bit. Even if the match wasn't good, it's Hulk Hogan, bro.
Very, very true. All right, so moving on now to 1992. This was the first ever Royal Rumble match that was for the WWF Championship. Ric Flair was the winner of this Royal
Woo!
Rumble.
Ric
And
Flair,
we
man.
don't have to talk about we don't have to talk negative about him this time around. Because this
I
isn't
know,
Ric
man.
Flair after retiring against Shawn Michaels.
I didn't really start appreciating and getting into Ric Flair until, he was, running wild on WCW back in the day. Um, you know,
Woo!
but Ric Flair, man, he's had a lot of, good feuds with, um the fuck's his name, man? My
Sting,
my Sting, fucking
Hulk
he just had
Hogan.
a lot of legendary feuds. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
My brain is just I've been editing and doing shit all day, so my brain is like mush, like leaking out of my ears right now.
So here's the thing with Ric Flair. You know, first class Hall of Famer, obviously, one of the greatest in the ring, one of the best gimmicks, I think, in professional wrestling history. But I do have to consider the fact that in 92, this was the time where he left WCW for a little bit,
Yep.
came to WWF for a little bit, and then went back to WCW because he didn't like his first run there. So I
Yep.
do have to consider that in this. And I'm going to say probably lovely, lovely, lovely just because it was a stacked Royal Rumble from what Chaz, has told me. There's a lot of, great Hall of Famers in that Rumble. And the iconic promo he cut after that Rumble was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
So I think you agree. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
I agree, man.
All right. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right. So now we're getting into a time where I started to really pay attention now into Royal Rumble matches. I know for you, it was 97. But now in 1993, we had Yokozuna win the Royal Rumble. And this was the first time where the winner of the Royal Rumble would head to WrestleMania and go for the World Championship.
Yeah, and I feel like, like you just said, like this is the first time in professional wrestling history to where the Royal Rumble actually had some kind of significant meaning. Like, you if you win this match, you get a shot to main event WrestleMania and go on and win the world title, the title that everybody wants. So I feel like this is where the Royal Rumble came from being just an event to being, very legendary. Like everybody wants to be in this match and everybody wants to win this match.
Mhm. And for me, with Yokozuna, this is, you see, I'm a little biased here because I have, really paid attention to Yokozuna's career, and I have been a pretty big fan of the way they booked him around the time because, of course, after this Royal Rumble, Yokozuna goes on to Mania 9 against Bret the Hitman Hart, beats him, and then, of course, Hulk Hogan comes in, wins the title in a stupid booking decision. And then
Yeah.
King of the Ring, Yokozuna beats Hulk Hogan, and then he has this monster championship run until Survivor Series 94, where The Undertaker defeats him in the casket match.
Yokozuna had a hell of a feud with The Undertaker.
Dude, that feud was one of my favorite feuds around that
Oh, yeah.
time.
Wasn't that around the time like Taker, like he got his nose broken or whatever, so he was wearing that mask thing over his face? Remember that?
That was, yeah, because he had the gray gear on, and then in Rumble 94, he went against Yokozuna, lost all the bad guys, put him in the casket, screwed him. Then he took a break, came back, I think he came back at SummerSlam that year, and then he had the purple gear going into Survivor Series against Yokozuna. But here's the thing with the way they booked Yokozuna, I think this win mattered a lot, which is why I got to put Yokozuna either lovely, lovely, lovely or the best. Because the way they booked him was fantastic around this time.
I would put him in I would put him in lovely, lovely, lovely. Like he had a good run, he had a good feud and stuff like that. The reason I would put him in lovely, lovely, lovely and not the best is because, like you said, he didn't have that much of a memorable run, but you also got to take into account he was the winner of the very first Royal Rumble to where it actually had any kind of significant meaning.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have Yokozuna over Ric Flair? Or do you keep Ric Flair over Yoko?
I have Yoko over Ric Flair. Yes,
I agree.
Definitely.
Absolutely agree. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Absolutely.
All right, so now we get into 1994. This was the first time in a Royal Rumble match where we had two winners. We had Bret the Hitman Hart and Lex Luger.
I was only 3 years old.
And I wasn't even born. Eventually, what happened was they did a heads or tails, and Lex Luger won the heads or tails. And basically how it worked at WrestleMania 10 in Madison Square Garden was Bret Hart had to face Owen Hart in the beginning of the night. Lex Luger would go on to face Yokozuna in the middle of WrestleMania 10, and then the winner of that match would defend the WWF Championship against Bret Hart in the main event for the championship.
This man's a wrestling encyclopedia, ladies and gents.
That is right, which is why I can do old school and new school and the regular We Are Wrestling talk show.
I wouldn't be able to handle it.
That's right. But with these two winners, we got to consider both Lex and Bret in this situation because it's not just Bret. Obviously, Lex Luger around this time, they lost Hulk Hogan, so they're trying to find that American hero, and they changed, Lex Luger's gimmick from the narcissist to, the Lex Express, and a lot of people didn't like that run from Lex.
I mean, it's Bret Hart. I mean, I feel like he was another one that, transcended pro wrestling. You know what I mean?
This is where I think Bret Hart really became that main eventer, though. Too.
I would, this is the first time we ever gotten two winners in the Rumble, and obviously it's not the last time or whatever. I would have to put it in the best, I mean,
I don't know, man. Only because of Lex Luger, I would say lovely, lovely, lovely. That's the only reason.
Can we split the picture and put Bret in the best and Lex Luger in the cut it in half, man?
Only if we could do that.
Let me get my scissors.
You see here, that's it is the first time though too. I did enjoy the way they did it. You know what? I will put it on the best, but I do think Hulk Hogan should still be over that.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah, no, because I actually did like that booking decision. I know a lot of people around that time didn't like it, but I actually thought it was different and cool.
It made things exciting, It's not like, your standard typical, outcome.
Mm-hmm. So now getting into whoa. Now getting into 1995, the Royal Rumble, we had Shawn Michaels have one of the most memorable moments in this Rumble where one foot hit the ground for the first time ever in a Rumble match, and he actually ended up winning and heading to WrestleMania.
Whenever you see, and this is, I believe he won it 2 years in a row, and he won
Back to
'94 and then
back.
'95, right?
1995,
90,
1996.
95, 96. Um, Whenever you see like a Royal Rumble compilation or a Shawn Michaels compilation video or tribute or anything like that, this moment is always on every single Shawn Michaels video that you see. You know what I mean?
Obviously, you're probably going to agree with me. Shawn Michaels has to easily be the best over Hulk Hogan and Bret. Because this moment is still replayed to this day
Oh yeah,
and still remembered because this is where Shawn Michaels really became the showstopper, the Heartbreak
except
Kid.
yeah,
So I think definitely, the best because this was one of the greatest Rumble, performances of all time,
yeah.
I think. Now, getting into 1996, we're almost there, Danny, around your time. So we'll be really getting into, some good discussions here. We
Oh
had
yeah,
Shawn Michaels win the Rumble and go to WrestleMania 12 against Bret Hart in one of the most iconic 1 hour Iron Man matches of all time. Probably one of the best performances from both of those guys, even though they did not
bro.
like each other.
Like they had a lot of bad blood, and it didn't really like escalate further until obviously we got to, I believe, '97 when the Montreal Screwjob happened. But like Bret Hart, there was no bigger feud in pro wrestling than Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. I mean, it's even talked about today, fucking 20 some odd years later. You know what I mean? It's
Still
just
to this day.
it's legend. It's like everybody in the world of pro wrestling wishes to have a feud this magical. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And for me, I gotta say for this one, it's gotta be the best,
Yeah.
I think. But this one here, I think I would
I
put
would I would put it
before,
behind Hulk Hogan, but before Brett and Lex.
like right there, you think?
Yeah, yep,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that just because of the way they built that going in that WrestleMania, because
yeah,
Shawn went in there as the underdog, they really showed, the training behind it and like they really like showed that underdog story with him and having that insane moment at WrestleMania 12. And that's like what I want in a Royal Rumble winner is to
yeah,
become that superstar. That's a
mhm,
big thing I'm considering when I'm ranking these, winners.
yeah,
All right, now we're getting into 1997. Here's where Danny is starting to, become a wrestling maniac. We
yeah,
had
man.
Stone Cold Steve Austin win this Royal Rumble.
This was '96, I believe, was when he cut the famous Austin 316 promo at King of the Ring.
That was in
So not
96.
'97, is from '97 on is we really saw what Steve Austin could do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I don't I vaguely remember this Royal Rumble, but I remember like I've always been a huge
You want me to give
Austin
you a
nut. You know
recap
what I
on
mean?
it?
I mean, if you want to give me a recap and everybody watching a recap, go ahead.
All right. So here's what happened at this Mania, and this is why on this rankings, this might be a little bit, controversial for me to do this. I gotta put this Stone Cold win in 97 all right.
Yeah,
And here's why. So in 1997, Stone Cold Steve Austin wins the Rumble. And then for some reason, at that WrestleMania, which was WrestleMania 13, the champion at the time was actually Psycho Sid. And he went on to, face The Undertaker for the title. And then Stone Cold had that iconic match against, Bret the Hitman Hart at that Mania. And the only reason why I got to say all right is because Stone Cold didn't go for the championship at Mania.
yeah,
And for me, like, if you win the Royal Rumble, you have to go to Mania for the title. I hate when WWE does that. Hate it.
Yeah, man, I'm in agreement. Like I've always been an Austin Mark, but you gotta put him where he belongs, man.
Yep. And I like, do you want to put him over Big John Studd and Hacksaw, or just keep him behind?
I mean, it's Austin, so
It's Austin, but he didn't go. But then again, they didn't go for the titles. But around that time, they weren't going for the titles.
yeah,
I feel like Stone Cold's got to be behind Big John Studd, I think. At least this Rumble win. Because now getting into 1998, I think you're going to 1,000,000% agree with me on this one. He has to be the best. There's no
yeah,
question about it. 98 was one of my favorite Rumbles of all time for a good reason. And that is because, Stone Cold, that is where he became, the face of the Attitude Era and
yep,
really took off. Like that Rumble he won, he went on to WrestleMania 14 and went against Shawn Michaels and really became the Rattlesnake Austin 316, in my opinion.
yep.
But do you have him over Shawn Michaels? Or would you have Shawn Michaels over Steve Austin?
I would have Michaels over Steve Austin just for the simple fact that like it's still so iconic just seeing Shawn Michaels dingling and having one foot hit the floor and you just like speculating, oh my god, is he gonna fall, is his hand gonna slip, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't really ever hear anybody talking about Steve Austin's Royal Rumble wins, you know what I mean?
You see here, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I do think Shawn Michaels should be in front of Steve Austin. And the reason why I have to agree with you on this is for one reason. This was Stone Cold's second win. That was Shawn's first win. His first win had more, meaning and it had more value, I think, than, Stone Cold's first win. And
Yep.
that's the thing that I really have to consider. Yes, Stone Cold, they definitely capitalized on it. He won the Rumble, went on to the main event, and, became champion. But I felt like not that long ago after he won, I thought he lost it to Kane or Undertaker at Judgment Day
I know
98.
he had a feud with Kane because I remember on Raw they had like a WWF championship ceremony or whatever with Kane, Undertaker, and McMahon in the ring. And remember, Steve Austin drove the Zamboni to the ring or whatever and clotheslined them.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, with, Stone, that's the thing I also have to consider. If you're winning the Rumble, yes, I'm sure, Stone Cold, regardless, he lost the title right away. He was still that mega star.
Mhm.
But looking back now, years later, if you are just winning the championship, if this was 2023 and that happened where Stone Cold won the title and a couple pay-per-views later, he,
Yep.
loses the title in some controversy because of the feud he was having with Mr. McMahon, fans would have been pissed off
Oh,
around that
absolutely.
time with the booking decision.
But I feel like
Michaels over Austin for
yes, Steve
winning.
Austin was. It still doesn't hinder the fact that Steve Austin. Nobody was bigger in the Attitude Era than Steve Austin was.
Of
You know
course
what I mean?
not. Nobody
He
was
was
bigger than Steve Austin.
Steve Austin was to the Attitude Era, which Hulk Hogan was to whatever, like the golden era, I guess you could say, like the 80s and 90s or whatever. And Steve Austin had that infamous feud with obviously McMahon versus Austin. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like the main thing people were worried about was how Austin's Royal Rumble victory was. You know what I mean?
No, I
He was
absolutely agree with you on
he
that.
was
I
just
think
so
you
much
couldn't have said
bigger.
it any better. So now getting into 1999, we had Vince McMahon win the Rumble. It actually was very interesting that year. We had, Stone Cold and Vince starting off this Rumble, and they built this Rumble around Stone Cold and Vince's feud. And then, Vince wins the Rumble. But then, of course, WrestleMania happens. He doesn't go for the title. And that's something I got to consider on this rankings.
Vince McMahon at this time was doing everything he could to screw Steve Austin, bro. And if I remember correctly, Triple H got heavily involved in this match. If I remember correctly,
I think so. I
I
do know that
because I remember
Stone Cold had the match at like it was what St. Valentine's,
St. Valentine's Day match because they had the
and that's
cage
where
match.
Big Show made his debut, and then I think Stone Cold, if he won, he got to go for the championship.
But
I think.
I remember this Rumble, particularly McMahon came out first, right? He was in the ring, all hopped up on his fucking vitamin water or whatever the fuck. And Steve Austin, he was the second guy out. And as Steve Austin is walking to the ring, walking down the aisle, Triple H comes out of nowhere and starts beating the hell out of Austin. Because at this time, Austin was, had an issue with McMahon, but he was also heavily
Wait a
feuding with
minute.
Triple H.
No, wait. I don't think it was Triple H. I think it was the corporation. It was like Test, Ken Shamrock.
Are you sure? Because I remember Triple H beating up Austin.
Because I thought
before a
Triple H
Rumble
around that
match.
time was with DX, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he was heavily feuding with Stone Cold at this time, and I remember I remember Austin walking to the ring during the Rumble match, and Triple H beating the hell out of him, making him bleed, and he took Austin out of the Rumble match for a little bit, and then he ended up going back in stitches or whatever, and going back in the Rumble match.
Here's the thing that I remember from it. I remember Stone Cold coming out, and then I know Corporation, they started beating the crap out of him, and then like they went like into the arena, and then they like went into the bathrooms and they like left him there like all out cold, and then Vince was just chilling in the ring until number 3 came out. But now, where would you
It
have
might
Vince
have been
McMahon
that.
ranked?
Oh man.
Here's a big thing that I have to consider, and for me with Vince, I'm going to have to say just about bearable. And the reason why I got to say this ranking, because nothing came out of it. I felt like
I would
when you
put
win a Rumble, they should have definitely had somebody else
I would
win,
put
not
I
Vince.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also the whole story was Vince trying to screw Austin. You know what I mean? I would have to put this at just all right because although it didn't lead to anything, him winning the Rumble, but it also escalated the Austin and McMahon storyline.
You are right. And they gave us some very iconic, video packages of Vince McMahon training for this Rumble. I do have to agree. Like, I will keep it under all right. But I do think that because of the story for that Rumble match, I would put him above Hacksaw and Big John
Yeah,
Studd and Steve
definitely.
Austin. All
Because
right.
like you have to when you look at a Rumble, right? Like you do have to look at what is the winner of this match gonna what is it gonna lead to? Is it gonna lead to a huge match at WrestleMania, or is it gonna elevate whatever the story they're telling? And I feel like no bigger story and between 97 and 99 was bigger than Steve Austin McMahon. Remember when Steve Austin pulled a fake gun out and fucking McMahon pissed himself? Like it just escalated the story and it made us
Oh,
as
the beer
fans
truck,
more,
man.
oh my bro, just so many iconic moments. Like how could you not enjoy what happened because of that Rumble?
You do make a very valid point, I think. So now, getting into 2000 Royal Rumble, this was in
NYC,
Madison
man,
Square
Madison
Gardens.
Square Garden. I remember that show, man. They had a fucking hell of a hardcore match between Cactus Jack and Triple H. They had a tag team tables match, the Dudleys and Hardys. We saw Mae Young stripping. We also got the debut of Taz.
I was
He
about to say
he
Taz
he.
versus Kurt Angle.
I mean, bro, it was so iconic. And then at the end of this match, at the end of this Rumble match, it was, in a way, a tie, but they picked The Rock to win, and it led to a huge story going on between Big Show and The Rock. Because I remember the weeks after this Rumble, Big Show kept playing video packages or whatever, and just trying to explain to Stephanie and Triple H and McMahon as to why he should be declared the winner of the
Oh, and then
2000
that's
Royal
like what
Rumble.
led into WrestleMania 16, where they had like this fatal 4-way, and each McMahon represented somebody in
Mm-hmm.
that match. Here's the thing, I do really remember a lot of Rumble 2000. I loved the spot with, Too Cool when they all danced, and then, Rikishi threw out Grandmaster
Oh
Sexay,
yeah, that was funny.
and then, with that. Also, I think Bob Backlund made his return too during that
And this
time.
this was the first this I will say this Rumble match, this Rumble pay-per-view, not even just a match. Um we saw a tag team table match between the Hardys and Dudleys, and then I believe a couple months later we got at No Mercy we got the triangle ladder match between the Hardys and Edge and Christian. I
WrestleMania
feel like
16, I know we had the first one right there
no,
for
we
Mania.
had remember we had a tag team ladder match at No Mercy in '99,
Yep, the ladder
and
match.
the winner of this match got Terry Runnels. Remember that?
Oh, I do remember that.
And
Yeah, and then
Jeff
but
Hardy
now with
pulled the tag
TLC,
down.
wasn't the first TLC one WrestleMania 16?
The first TLC match was SummerSlam 2000. Um, but at WrestleMania 16, we got the first triangle ladder match with the Dudleys and Christian and the Hardys. So I feel like this table match at the Royal Rumble 2000 is pretty much what like spiraled it all into becoming the iconic TLC matches that we got, and
Mhm.
it's so iconic they even made fucking pay-per-views out of it. You know what I
Very
mean? Like
true.
there was a lot in this rumble that is just so iconic that people even today still talk about. I mean, can we talk about the 2x4 with barbed wire, Cactus Jack and Triple H? I mean, just how iconic that was. Holy shit!
All right, so now getting into The Rock winning this Royal Rumble, where would you rank him?
I would have to rank it the best. I mean, just what spiraled out of it. And I mean, The Rock was huge in 2000. He was, the Brahma Bull and he had video games and everything. But it also spiraled into a story between him and Big Show that really escalated over the next several weeks. It made for great TV, in my opinion.
Honestly, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. I think, The Rock should be under the best because this was around the time where he started getting that mega, baby face run.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what really, took him off to a whole nother level because, yeah, he was a great heel in 98 and 99. But in 2000, that was a whole nother level The Rock friggin', brought into WWF
Oh,
at the time.
absolutely.
So, where would you have The Rock, though? Over Hulk Hogan or
I would have to over Hulk Hogan because like I said in the beginning of the beginning of this video, this episode, you know, I mean it was Hulk Hogan that transcended, more than just pro wrestling. And then there was The Rock. And there's no bigger celebrity on this planet today bigger than The Rock. Everybody knows who the fucking Rock is.
all right,
You
so
know
with
what I
The
mean?
Rock now, do you put him over Stone Cold on the best?
Yes, I would even go as far as putting him before Shawn Michaels. Like it
I think
just
Michaels is over The Rock, I do
the
think.
the Rock is just on a whole nother level, bro. Like the Shawn
Ooh,
Michaels,
over Steve Austin. Damn,
the
man.
Shawn
This is
the Shawn Michaels, right? The whole 1 foot maneuver, like that's cool to us. We're wrestling marks, we love the sport or whatever.
Mhm.
But The Rock just transcends that.
You're
Even if you've never watched a pro wrestling in your life, you know who the fucking Rock is. Just like if you never watched pro wrestling before in your life, you know who the fuck Hulk Hogan is. There's only two superstars to ever transcend past pro wrestling, and I feel like it's The Rock and Hulk Hogan.
and John Cena. That's another one that could be discussed.
John Cena's
Stone
starting.
Cold can too.
John Cena's starting. But I mean, bigger than The Rock or Hulk Hogan, Brandon? No, I don't think so.
Dude, I don't know, man, because this is about Rumble winners, and I feel like Stone Cold's had more of an impact than The Rock's, I think. I don't know, man.
Oh, this is
Let
why
us know how okay, we are Wrestling Maniacs. Let
I
us
kind of
know.
wish we were
This
doing
is the
this
perfect
live,
time.
man. I
Look,
kind of wish.
this is the perfect time for the We Are Wrestling Maniacs to let us know in the comment section below who you liked better, The Rock or Stone Cold. But I think, you know what? I'll give you it. We can put him over Stone Cold, but I can't put him over Shawn.
Just leave him there. So we'll have Michaels, Steve Austin, The Rock.
We'll go over it all at the end anyways.
This, I next time we need to start. This needs to be a live thing. That way we can get suggestions, man. Because like
Honestly, doing this live would be pretty fun, I
this
think.
is hurting my fucking head. I just like when I don't like when I just think about it, bro. Like the 2000 Royal Rumble, Madison Square Garden, like it was just so fucking iconic in so many different ways. That's why I was like between that and the Rock stardom, like the Rock went on to be a giant movie star, fucking only like 3 years later,
You
and
see
you know,
here, honestly,
like
now that I'm thinking about it, I do got to put Rock over Steve Austin. I do. Because in 2000, like, this is really where The Rock, like, elevated his, game around this time and really became the most electrifying man in sports entertainment.
yeah, and
Literally.
then the next year, like we had that, he was huge. He was huge in the WWF because of the alliance and the invasion angle. Steve
Mhm.
Austin was a heel, part of the alliance, and it was the Rock, Taker, Kane,
Ooh,
all these
perfect
guys.
time, man. Now, getting into the 2001 Royal Rumble, personally one of my favorite Royal Rumbles. Stone
Yeah,
Cold
we
Steve
saw
Austin got
Drew
his
Carey.
third he got his third Royal Rumble win during this.
Yeah,
Where would you rank Stone Cold's third Royal Rumble win?
I would actually put this above his second one on the best. I would put it right there. Maybe I would even put it as I would even maybe knock Rock out. Like it was pretty iconic. Steve Austin 2001. Like he was. This was obviously before the invasion angle. He was still a babyface, sort of transitioning into being a heel. But Steve Austin 2001 was huge. We had the 2-man power trip. Him and Triple H a little while after the Rumble. They ended up forming a partnership, and they were absolutely destructive. And then obviously Triple H tore his quad. He was out until 2002. It was iconic, man. The 2001 Royal Rumble was a pretty iconic pay per view. We saw Kane. I think he was in the Rumble match for like 35 minutes or almost an hour or something like that. I
Most
can't remember the
eliminations for the longest time too, until like Braun
We
Strowman
saw Drew
did
Carey
it.
trying to fucking pay him off like a pimp, We saw Raven come in with a fucking with a shopping cart full of weapons. The 2001 Royal Rumble was pretty iconic, man.
So
Not
iconic.
not as iconic as 2000, but it was still iconic.
I like
But
the
I
2001 a little bit better than 2000. That's just me.
I feel like the 2001 Rumble was a little bit more storyline driven. You know what I mean?
No, that's very true. You do have a good point there. Yeah, no,
That was
2001 Stone
also
Cold was literally 1996 Michael Jordan. Like, let's be
and
real.
I don't know if this is fact or not. Maybe somebody that watches this can check it out for me. But this is one of the first times we actually saw the Hardy Boys going at it to get one on one because
This was in 2001. Yep, I remember that.
I don't know if it was the very first time or if they did it previously. But I know this is one of the first times we saw Matt and Jeff going one on one. Well, I think one of them entered the Rumble, and then the next person was one of them. So
All
it's
right.
pretty iconic stuff, man.
Pretty iconic. Now, getting into the next Royal Rumble winner, 2002, Triple H. This is where he came back from that, horrible injury that he had. He, made his return on Monday Night Raw, declared himself in the Rumble, and he ended up winning it and going on to WrestleMania against Chris Jericho, right? For the Undisputed Championships.
Yes, Jericho was a heel. I remember, you know, Jericho formed an unlikely alliance with Stephanie McMahon after Stephanie she lied about her pregnancy, and Triple H found out they were supposed to have like a vow renewal ceremony or whatever, and obviously Linda, Stephanie's mom, gave Triple H a videotape, and it was showing the doctor that they had a meeting with backstage on SmackDown, and the doctor ended up being an actor. So Triple
Oh.
H found out that Stephanie was lying, and he destroyed the entire ring, the flowers, just threw everything, kicked all the vases around, and then he fucking threw the ring, took the ring off, threw it at Stephanie, left, and Stephanie ended up forming an alliance with Jericho shortly after because she was a very vindictive character at the time. So she wanted to get back at Triple H, or how dare she, treat the $1 billion princess like this. You know what I mean? Very iconic stuff. I mean, remember Triple H? He was supposed to watch Triple H and Stephanie's dog, and the dog got ran over by a limousine or something like that. Like, it was just iconic stuff. And then obviously the match at WrestleMania 18, I believe it was. Great stuff, bro.
Great
Great.
match with Jericho.
Triple H got this big, baby face pop when he fucking returned, and then it went even bigger because for months Triple H was getting tormented pretty much by Stephanie and Jericho, and then for him to win the undisputed title at WrestleMania 18, he got the biggest fucking pop, and it was just such an iconic moment, bro.
Very iconic. I personally think for this one, I'm going to say Lovely, Lovely, Lovely over Yokozuna.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because Triple H was already a main event guy before this happened. Yes, this did catapult him, I do think, and he did have a classic with Jericho.
But you got to think of like how legendary his return was, though. Like, at that time, nobody was getting pops like that. They had killer video packages.
All right, here's what I think we should do, because we have a lot of people, I think, under the best. I think we move Lex and Brett into Lovely, 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 and we put Triple H in the best.
I'm game. Should we move one of the Hulk Hogan's too? We have two.
Yeah, I think I'd say we move. We'll throw in. Yeah, we'll put 90-1. We'll put 91 down there, I think. Yeah, because the first win matters more, I think.
Yep.
And with Triple H, we put him under the best. Where would you put him? I think before Hulk Hogan, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a good spot. All right, moving on now to our next, Royal Rumble winner. This was 2003. Here comes the pain, Brock Lesnar. He went on to WrestleMania to go against Kurt Angle in one of the greatest WWE Championship matches at WrestleMania 19. Where would you put Brock Lesnar in his first Rumble win?
The thing with this is, Lesnar at this time, I don't feel like he was really invested in the WWE and what he was doing.
I think I think after his match with Kurt Angle, that's where he started to not be invested.
Sure, I know he was only in the WWE for like 2 years maybe, and then he left because he didn't like it. He didn't like to travel. He didn't like all this stuff. So I don't necessarily know how iconic his Rumble appearance was.
That is true, but he did have a great match with Kurt Angle around that time too.
Yeah, but when was that? 2003.
2003, yes.
Isn't that when he broke his neck because he tried to do a shooting star press?
Yep.
That was pretty iconic, man, for the fact that he almost fucking killed himself. I put in Lovely, Lovely, Lovely because there's a lot of I don't consider it as iconic as a lot of the other ones.
I'm going to say Lovely, 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 probably over Ric Flair. I think Yokozuna still had more because he had around that time. That's what established Yokozuna into like that monster heel. Brock Lesnar at the time was already established.
Brock Lesnar, man, like he had all the tools at that time to be successful. Like he was in one of the biggest OVW classes on the planet, bro. They had Randy Orton, they had John Cena, they had Batista. Like I think they had Shelton Benjamin. I believe maybe Charlie Haas too. I can't remember, but like he had plus he had Paul Heyman as mouthpiece when he first came in. Like he had all the tools to be fucking successful.
All right, moving on now to our next Royal Rumble winner in 2004, the one that is forgotten due to, some unfortunate stuff that happened in in 2007. Chris Benoit. It was him and, Big Show as the final two. Chris Benoit wins. He goes on to WrestleMania 20 in a triple threat match against Triple H and Shawn Michaels for the World Heavyweight Championship. And we got that iconic moment with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit hugging each other with the titles.
You know, we don't. One thing that we've never really done on this channel is talk about Chris Benoit and like not the person, but you know, when talking about him, I feel like you gotta distinguish Chris Benoit the performer from Chris Benoit the person. Chris Benoit the performer, I don't think there's ever been a more calculated, pro wrestler on the planet. Like the dude was just fucking. They called him the Rabid Wolverine for a reason. You know what I mean? And I feel like he gets overlooked because of what happened. Rightfully so. I trust me. I am not in any way justifying what happened because Chris Benoit is a fucking douchebag, point blank.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also decipher the person from the performer, and I feel like in a lot of cases that's what needs to happen. Totally understand why WWE has absolutely no mention of him anymore. Rightfully so. I'm not,
Totally understand that too.
But when it comes to lists like this, you gotta there's a distinction there. Don't think about the person. Think about what he did in the squared circle. And I feel like people just don't do that.
And I think something about you and myself on the We Are Wrestling Talk show, we really know where to separate that, and we always consider the performer, we always consider the performance, we always really do, like, we really look at the analytics and we really break it down.
Yep.
With what happens. And I think we don't call it, we call it where it is.
Yep.
Honestly. And with Chris Benoit, we haven't really talked much about him, and I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. When it comes to being a performer, top 5 in that ring, hands down. But unfortunately,
absolutely.
he'll never be remembered as that top 5 because of what he did to Nancy and his son.
Yep.
Which I cannot forgive him for doing that. But I'm not going to consider what happened during this. We're going to consider it right now. We're in 2004. Chris Benoit, wins, goes on to Mania for the championship. This is not 2007 right now. This is 2004.
And like, you have that iconic moment of him winning the Rumble, and then at Mania of that year, him winning the belt, and you see Eddie coming out, and they're embracing, because they have this brotherhood. They have the confetti coming down, and he's holding Daniel and celebrating with his family, whatever. Nobody ever thought he'd be world champion. There he is, his defining moment. I mean, regardless of what you think about Chris Benoit the person, like that moment is iconic, and you can't really look past that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We don't work in WWE. We don't have to worry about shit like that. We're WWE fans. We're pro wrestling fans. We look at the performance aspect, and that's what I do. Like I would have to put it the best, and I don't want people to get, I don't want people to
man.
I would have to, bro. It's iconic.
Here's the thing. It's iconic. I do agree with you on that. But I think WWE fumbled his world championship run, and that's something I do consider in the ranking list. They had a young Randy Orton who was not ready to be a world champion beat him at SummerSlam in 04, and it made no sense either.
Yeah, but Randy Orton was also, part of Evolution. Evolution had Batista, Triple H, Ric Flair at that time. Randy Orton was, surrounded
wasn't
by
ready,
fucking
man.
big ballers. He maybe wasn't ready, but I mean, bro,
and that's a big thing I got to consider.
Chris Benoit's win was iconic, and his win at WrestleMania was iconic.
Do you remember what happened after he had that moment at WrestleMania 20? From Backlash 2004 to SummerSlam 2004.
I don't. I would have to go back and look.
And that's why, for me, Chris Benoit, I got to put under either all right or lovely, lovely, lovely. Because if you can't remember his world championship run, then, and you can only remember that one moment at Mania, then it can't be the best.
Yeah. Well, you also got to remember that at that time, I was more of a Raw kid than a SmackDown kid, and I've told you and Ben that numerous times. And at that time, Chris Benoit was primarily a SmackDown
No, he was not.
wrestling guy.
In 2004, he was a Raw guy, and then he went to SmackDown after.
Are you sure?
Yes, I
Because
am.
I remember him primarily on SmackDown for whatever fucking reason.
Nope, because Chris Benoit went to the Raw brand to go for the World Heavyweight title, and then he was on that brand until, I believe, 2005 during the draft, and then he got traded back to SmackDown and was going for the United States Championship.
All right, well, you know,
I think,
I
lovely,
stand
lovely,
corrected.
lovely.
I would put
say
I would put him before Brock Lesnar.
before Brock, like right there,
Yep.
or like over Brock. Or yeah, I say before Brock. I agree. Because like like we're both considering 2004, not
We're
what
gonna get
happened
we're gonna
and
get we're
stuff.
yeah, but there's gonna be assholes that talk all kinds of shit about us.
Of
Even
course,
mentioning
but hey, that's what we signed up
you.
for as content creators.
There's Chris Benoit, the person, right here in his own category. Chris Benoit, the performer, right here. Man, this is a distinction.
Yep. All right. So now moving on to 2005, we had the Animal Batista win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania 21 Goes Hollywood to go against Triple H for the
Yeah,
World
man,
Heavyweight
this was
title.
I remember how
I remember everything in this Rumble.
I don't
From
remember
Daniel Puder getting bullied by Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit
I don't remember
to
everything. I don't remember everything in the Rumble, but I
the
remember
tie
everything.
with Batista and John Cena.
I remember everything leading up to it. I remember
Vince staring his quad.
Vince tearing his squad, but I remember Batista at this point. I believe he was still in the he was still in Evolution, if I remember correctly,
Mhm.
and they had Triple H was trying to figure out who Batista was going to face, for the title, whatever. I can't. I think it was Taker. He was the WWF
Nope.
champion.
Nope. WWE champion was JBL.
So it was JBL, and then Triple H was the World Heavyweight Champion. And I remember the weeks leading up to it, Triple H was, trying to get Batista to go after JBL and not him. And I remember that's what caused the split between Batista and Evolution.
Yep. And then he powerbombed Triple H through the table, signed the Raw, clipboard. And
Iconic.
that's the thing about that Rumble, which really, means a lot to me, was because John Cena and Batista, this was the moment that they became, the face of the Ruthless Aggression era. Batista wins the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 21. John Cena wins the WWE Championship at Mania 21. Then we get, the draft, and they move Batista to SmackDown to be the face over there, and they had John Cena be the face of Raw.
Yep.
And I think regardless, I think if there was one time you were going to book two winners, it should have been 2005.
Yeah.
Because they technically both went on to Mania and, had a successful run.
Like, I don't remember much of WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, but I remember like a lot of like the video packages, whatever, like were like reenactments of like classic movies and stuff like that. Like they had Forrest Gump
Loved
one,
it.
they had Good Will Hunting.
I loved WrestleMania 21.
Isn't WrestleMania Goes Hollywood? Didn't they have Bobby Lashley and Umaga go 1-on-1 and Vince McMahon get his head shaved?
Nope, that was WrestleMania 23.
That was WrestleMania 23.
Yep, that was in 23. So now with Batista winning this Rumble, where would you rank him?
I'd put lovely. Like it was a big moment.
Huge.
And it led to a huge feud between him and Triple H, that even, they even had a match a couple years ago at Mania or whatever, and because I think it was was it I can't
Batista's
remember.
last match.
Yeah, but I can't remember if it was Triple H that never beat Batista or if it was Batista that never beat Triple H.
It was Triple H, I think. No, it's
At
Triple H
Mania.
that never beat Batista.
Yeah,
it was
so
Triple H that never did.
So they
then
wanted
Batista
to have that
put
match.
him over. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so here's where I would put Batista.
I would
lovely above Hulk Hogan.
I could see
just
that.
because They did not fumble this opportunity, just like Yokozuna in 93. They established a star in
Yeah.
Batista when he won the Rumble. And they tried to do this with Randy Orton in 04 against Chris Benoit, but it didn't work at the time.
Hmm.
He wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Batista, on the other hand, was ready. And we got that iconic feud with Triple H that would lead into these, insane matches. I believe at Vengeance afterwards, they had a great Hell in the Cell match. And Batista went on to really be the face of SmackDown. So
Yeah.
I would have personally him over Hulk Hogan.
And then, Batista, he befriended guys like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. I remember there's this one backstage segment that like periodically like I'll see when I'm scrolling like on YouTube. It'll be like Batista and Eddie Guerrero like in a backstage segment on SmackDown, and Eddie Guerrero's like eating his dinner or whatever, and Batista comes up, talks to him, takes his dinner, talks to him, whatever, and then leaves with Eddie Guerrero's food. This is fucking hilarious.
Damn. All right, moving on now to 2006. One of the greatest performances in a Royal Rumble match. Rey Mysterio, in honor of Eddie Guerrero, goes in there 62 minutes, competes his ass off, and wins the Rumble. Goes on the WrestleMania 22 big time, and they have a triple threat match. Kurt Angle versus Randy Orton versus Rey Mysterio for the World Heavyweight Championship, and we got the underdog story when Rey wins the title.
I thought Rey Mysterio won the title beating Brock Lesnar.
Nope. That was Eddie Guerrero in
Oh, that was Eddie
2000.
Guerrero.
That was 2004.
Yeah. I would have to put this at Lovely, Lovely, Lovely. Like it was iconic, but I mean, obviously, probably more, iconic stuff has happened or whatever. I
Where
don't
would
think
you
it
put
was.
him on Lovely, Lovely, Lovely?
I would put him. I would put him after Brock, before. Yeah. Nope. Over.
Over you or over Yoko
Yep.
or before Brock?
Before Brock, but in front of
Oh,
Chris
okay.
Benoit.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree with this spot. I think, Rey Mysterio being in, Lovely, 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 that's a good spot because it was a special moment. It was a great
Yeah.
performance, and that we have to consider. And this is where Rey Mysterio became even more popular with the crowd and the fans, and they really got behind him. And he
I mean,
would go on to be one of the biggest, baby faces in sports entertainment.
let's face it, man. Especially at that time, because he came over from WCW. Obviously, nobody in the entire world of pro wrestling thought that somebody like Rey Mysterio would, be world champion. That was a huge moment for him.
Very, very huge. I do agree with that. So now moving on into 2007, we have The Undertaker. He got his first Royal Rumble win after all these years. He goes on the WrestleMania 23 to face Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship.
I mean,
This was during Ruthless Aggression.
I mean, it's Undertaker, man. Like,
See here with this Rumble match, I'm probably going to get some criticism for this. Yes, that was a great match with him and Batista at WrestleMania, great feud, but that World Heavyweight title run, I really wasn't invested in as much.
Yeah.
That's why for me, I would put Undertaker probably as all right as the Royal Rumble winner that year.
Yeah.
Like it was just, I felt like, I don't know, because you have to think about it too. I think Edge cashed in like ASAP on Undertaker around this time for the World Heavyweight title after he took the briefcase from Mr. Kennedy that year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like really a lengthy title run. It just started the feud with Edge and Undertaker.
I would put Taker after Steve Austin and all right.
Yeah, I agree. It just wasn't like Undertaker's had a legendary career, but when it comes to like winning the Rumble, it's never been like a crazy moment because Undertaker was already so established.
It's legendary because
run.
It's legendary because of the fact that it's the dead man. It's Undertaker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I think if it was like somebody else, it would probably be like just about bearable. But it's the Undertaker, and it's something to add to his, insane accolades in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
All right, moving on now to 2008. One of the best Royal Rumble returns in Madison Square Garden. John Cena enters the Rumble at 30, wins, goes on to WrestleMania 24 in a triple threat match against Triple H and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship.
John Cena returned. I think it was like 4 months before he was supposed to.
He came back quicker.
He had the neck surgery or whatever. And I remember seeing a documentary footage on, around this time, and seeing it like, like 3 days after having fucking neck surgery, the dude shows up at a WWE event to see everybody, and he has a fucking bandage on his neck. This was a huge moment because I think they kept this a secret. I don't think anybody
It was a huge
knew
secret.
that he was gonna be there, and he came out, with his head down, and then once the music kicked in, he popped his head up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This rumble was very iconic. Obviously we saw the mediocre match between the match that gets heavily criticized, Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. This was, I think, one of the first times that we saw Triple H and John Cena butt heads or whatever.
And the
You know,
day of this recording, I believe Royal Rumble 2008 is winning the community poll. And for me, I love John Cena's return. As a kid, I loved it. But please, guys, vote for another one, not Rumble 2008. I feel like the
vote for
other ones are a little
99.
better.
I, I'm
Yes, 99. I'm all for 99.
I kind of want to go back. I kind of want to go back, and I love doing this because it gives us a chance to go back and revisit some of these.
Oh, it's the
We
best.
might have to watch a classic WrestleMania too. Closer to
Oh,
WrestleMania.
towards Mania time. Oh, you already know we're going to have a Mania week here on the channel. But now with John
Absolutely.
Cena, where would you rank this Royal Rumble win?
I would. I don't know if I would put it in the best, but I feel like it's too good to be in just lovely, lovely, lovely because of how iconic it was. Nobody's ever, had neck surgery and then came back months before they're supposed to and get the victory.
It's
You know,
inspiring, and you see, this is the problem here. And I'm sorry, John
this is why
Cena.
we should have did it live, man.
You were my childhood hero, but I can't. I have to put him lovely, lovely, lovely over Batista only because at that time Randy Orton was just dominating, with the WWE Championship. And at
Hmm.
that Mania, John Cena actually didn't end up winning the title.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Cena, I would say like top of lovely, lovely, lovely.
yeah.
But then again, we could put Cena over Shawn Michaels in 1996 and move Michaels where Cena is. Because you are right about, the injury thing.
I mean, it still gets talked about today, and every single, documentary about the Rumble
And
or
Michaels is
document.
already Michaels 95 performance like outweighs 96 performance.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm
Sorry,
game.
sorry, sorry, old school fans.
It's just iconic, man.
Sorry, old school Chaz.
And then we got the Viper.
That's right. In 2009, we have the Viper Randy Orton, who goes on to win the Royal Rumble. And then I believe at WrestleMania 25, it was Randy Orton versus Triple H. They had this, rivalry going on where, Randy was coming at the McMahon family. And we had a great feud with both of those two.
Ironically enough, a couple years after this, remember when Daniel Bryan was trying to go for the WWE title? Triple H was the special guest referee, and he pedigreed Daniel Bryan so Randy Orton could pick up the victory. Remember that? Because they didn't think
I do.
Daniel Bryan was championship material.
And that's when the Authority actually became something in WWE, which I think is definitely like overlooked. I think because I felt like around that time it was pretty good.
Bro, Triple H. I mean, well, yeah, Triple H and Randy Orton. They've had such historic moments with each other.
Mhm.
Like their entire careers are pretty much cemented with each other because when Randy Orton first came in, he was part of Evolution. That's what really, made him a main event player. I don't think we've gone up until like obviously the last several years. I don't think we've gone a year since like 2002 without having some kind of program with Triple H and Randy Orton. You know,
Yeah.
like they're just cemented with each other. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing about this Randy Orton win. I have to put him under all right because he was already an established star.
Yep.
Yes, he did have a good feud with Triple H, but it was nothing that really like moved the needle, if
Yep.
that makes any sense.
Wasn't a needle mover.
And I would probably put it maybe over, I don't know, over Undertaker maybe. Nah, probably like before Undertaker.
Before Undertaker, yeah, I would do that.
I think. All right, moving on now to 2010. We had the return of Edge. He won the Royal Rumble and then he went on to WrestleMania 26 to go against Chris Jericho for the World Heavyweight title.
This was
And here's an interesting fact. The Undertaker was actually the champion at the time, and Shawn Michaels screwed him in the Elimination Chamber to help Jericho win the title because Michaels wanted to end the streak.
yeah.
And that's where his career would actually end. So where are you putting the Rated R Superstars first Royal Rumble win?
I would put just all right. Like it wasn't that memorable. You know, I feel like
The return
wasn't
was memorable, but I
the
think
return
like
wasn't what
after
eh,
Mania it really wasn't a needle mover. I
plus Edge
feel.
was already a multiple time world champion around this time. You
Exactly,
know
and
what I
it could have
mean?
been, somebody else. I get that. So where would you put him on? All right.
Um I would leave him behind Steve Austin. Yeah, right there.
All right. Sorry, Ben. You're going to probably hate us for that one. And of course, we already have 2011. There he is right there, guys. Alberto Del Rio. And he's going to be staying right there and get in the bin.
Yeah, man.
We're definitely going to keep him there. So now, getting into 2012, we have the Celtic Warrior, Sheamus. He gets his first Royal Rumble win, and he actually beats Daniel Bryan in one of, the quickest WrestleMania matches for the World Heavyweight title that a lot of fans actually were not happy about at all.
I would have to put it just bearable, man, to be honest with you. Like I love Sheamus. Sheamus, you know, he's an incredible performer, but with how the WrestleMania match, I mean, because when you're trying to categorize each Rumble match, you got to take into account, you know, like we've been saying this entire stream or this entire episode, you know, you got to take into account like what did that lead to? I mean, obviously, it led to him winning the title against Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, but then he
But I
went
mean,
on to having one of the most boring babyface runs that a lot of people just got sick of after a while.
plus, plus, it wasn't the first time Sheamus has been champion.
He
You
did
know,
win the
when
WWE title against Cena at TLC.
yeah,
One
but
of the
when he
quickest times to win
and
the title.
and remember how ruthless Sheamus was when he first came in? I mean, one of the first things he did was try to take out Triple H with a sledgehammer. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Mhm.
I it was this Rumble win wasn't that memorable.
It
This
was a
title
meh.
reign,
It was just a meh Rumble win. Nothing
yeah,
against Sheamus. Booking decision-wise is what caused us to put him on just about bearable.
yeah.
All right, so now moving on to 2013. John Cena wins his second Royal Rumble match. And at this time, I believe he went to WrestleMania 27 to go against The Miz. And that is where, The Rock screwed Cena. Miz, wins the main event of
Yep.
WrestleMania, which I got to say about The Miz real quick during that time. He gets so much heat. I loved his WWE title run around that time. I don't know why. I thought it was a great run and
Yep.
so overlooked.
I gotta admit, like around this time, I was sort of like out of pro wrestling at this time. You know, like I told you in like you know the late 2000, the 2010s or whatever. Like you know, for a little bit, I think it was after Edge announced his retirement. Shortly after there,
Mhm.
and like after like you know the Nexus was running wild or whatever. Like shortly after that, like I was sort of like you know I checked out for a couple of years.
And that
Um,
happens in wrestling because I think that's
but
what
I
happened with me like in like the late 2010s.
But I remember how iconic the match between Cena and Miz was. because, like you said, The Rock screwed Cena, and it led to The Rock and Cena having almost a 2-year feud. Remember? Because
Yeah.
they fought at 2 WrestleManias in a row. So
Mhm.
I mean, it was kind of iconic when you really think about it.
So, Cena in 2013 winning the Rumble, I'm going to say alright on this one only
Yeah.
because it really wasn't a needle mover. Yes, we did get Cena and The Rock, and, The Miz was still put over, which I did really like at the time, but, they had the focus on him and The Rock, and for me, in a Rumble match, I don't know why, I like to see somebody new win, because I love seeing somebody become an established star.
You want to know a hot take?
Hot take. Give it to me.
The best thing about the whole Cena and Rock feud were the promos. The matches I don't feel like
No,
lived
the
up to
matches,
everybody's
I enjoyed the
standards.
matches, but the promos were the best thing in that. You are right. And they had legitimate heat too around that time.
Yeah.
But now John Cena, I say all right, probably over Hacksaw, I think.
hmm
Just because like we did get the payoff there. He still put Miz over as champion, and we
Yeah.
got Cena versus Rock, which around that time was very iconic and fans wanted it.
Yeah.
All right, now, this is going to get very interesting now. This is where fans started to get really pissed off at Royal Rumble pay-per-views. It started with Alberto Del Rio, and then it started to really get bad. Now, going into 2014, we had Batista win the Royal Rumble, and a lot of fans were pissed off about this because they wanted Daniel Bryan to be put over. And
hmm
we go on to WrestleMania 30, and Daniel Bryan goes against Triple H, beats Triple H, goes against Randy and Batista in a triple threat match, and has that moment.
Yeah.
But we have to consider Daniel Bryan was not the winner in this case. It was a Batista that a lot of people did not really they did not enjoy this run from him.
Wasn't didn't this happen? Because like I said, we checked out for a little while around this time. Isn't this around the time to where Batista was in, like, he was a heel and he was in a wheelchair or whatever, and he fucking did that famous promo,
Nope, that
"I
was
quit," and threw the microphone down?
No, that was 2010. In 2014, they tried bringing him back as a babyface, and the crowd was just not having it at all. So then
I
eventually they turned him heel, and they did like an evolution thing for like a couple months with Triple H and
I
Randy
would say
Orton, and then they went against the Shield.
just about bearable. Like, it's not quite bad enough to be getting the bin. It's not Alberto Del Rio. You
Oh
know,
man, you see here with the
It wasn't
Batista.
like it wasn't iconic, bro. Outside of, like, yeah, Daniel Bryan got the moment between him, but, like, I mean, this isn't a Daniel Bryan moment. This is a Batista
Should have
moment.
been Daniel Bryan's moment, which is why, for me, I would say get in the bin because this was horrible.
Yeah,
This really ruined Batista's momentum coming back to WWE at this time. But
but
I'm
Alberto
still,
Del Rio is still first, though.
oh, of course, Alberto is obviously first. Yeah. Nobody's taking that spot from Alberto Del Rio.
I need to go to another Rumble because my first ever Rumble was Alberto winning, and I can't fucking have that on my conscience.
That sucks. All right, moving on now to 2015. And this Royal Rumble winner was another controversial one that fans were pissed the fuck off about. Roman Reigns.
I've said this multiple times. There was a lot of Roman Reigns haters back then. I was never one of them. For whatever reason, I've always liked the character. Roman Reigns, like, it just had like it was
The name
almost
was
like
always cool.
the name was cool. Like, I like, he kind of reminded me of fucking Jason Momoa and Aquaman. Like, he just had a look about him. But
Eh,
his booking was shit. He
That's
had all
where
he was
we have to consider
he
it,
was
man.
another Brock Lesnar in a lot of ways. He had all the tools to be successful, but it was the booking that fucking made him absolutely
Oh, and his promos were weak too
unbearable.
at that time.
It wasn't that good. But I mean, look at him now. He's the
Oh,
biggest
yeah.
thing in
He's the head of the
WWE.
table. He's my tribal
You know.
chief. I'll tell you
So
that.
I mean, even if this got a lot of hate. I wouldn't necessarily lay that on Roman Reigns. I would lay it on his booking. And
It's
obviously,
obviously this booking.
and he doesn't book himself. So, I mean, can you really fault the guy for doing what he's told?
I gotta go with either just above bearable or get in the bin for this one because they were trying so hard to establish him as that next John Cena, and they literally wasted 5 years of this man's career.
Yeah.
It was until, he turned heel and did the bloodline thing in 2020.
I would
That's where
say
he became a star.
I would say just about bearable because I still think it's better than anything fucking Alberto Del Rio did.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. I have Sheamus's win over Roman's probably. I
Yeah.
just think that that's a fair spot. So now we go into 2016. This is where Roman was the WWE champion, and the Authority did not want the man being the champion. So they put the WWE championship on the line. And this is the second time in Royal Rumble history that they did this. And we had a older Triple H win the Rumble. And then at WrestleMania 32, it was Triple H versus Roman Reigns for the WWE title, and he still couldn't give Roman Reigns that moment.
You know,
Or
I
no, it
still
was
have
WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania 31. I think.
I still have never seen this Rumble. The fact that the WWE title was on the line in it, I
Oh
still
wait,
have
I was
never
wrong. I
watched
was
it.
wrong. It was WrestleMania 32.
I still have never seen this Rumble.
Here's the thing, like the
I heard it
story
wasn't
was
that good, so
there.
I never bothered.
It
And
wasn't. It
remember,
wasn't good.
I didn't really start like watching the pay-per-views on a regular basis until WWE Network came around or whatever. But
Mhm.
by this time, I heard so many bad things about the Rumble. I never bothered to go back and rewatch it.
And that was a good decision, I think, on your behalf. Here's what I got to say about Royal Rumble 2016. The plan was to put Roman over yet again. So they
Yeah.
have Triple H take the title off of him. They go on to WrestleMania 32, and even Triple H cannot put Roman over at this time. I got to unfortunately put this Rumble win just about bearable or get in the
Yeah.
bin. I'm going to say just above bearable, probably
For the iconicness
over
this is the
over
first
Roman.
Rumble. This is the first Rumble that we actually had the title on the line in. So I mean, it does have kind of iconic situations in it, but as overall, I don't know. I probably will never
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So now going into 2017, we had Randy Orton win the Rumble. He goes on to WrestleMania to go against Bray Wyatt for the WWE Championship that he won at Elimination Chamber. And they were having that feud going on, and we saw Randy Orton, win the title.
As much as I like Bray Wyatt, I don't really remember his title run, but I remember the feud that he had with Randy Orton. I remember them going into like Bray Wyatt's cabin or whatever, and having like a street fight there, and Randy Orton like lighting the cabin or whatever on fire. Like there's just a lot of iconic moments, but um, I don't really remember like how this played out too much. I do remember the feud though.
Well, here's how it played out. So around the time Bray Wyatt brainwashed Randy Orton into being a part of the Wyatt family
I do
with
remember that.
Luke
Yeah.
Harper. Luke
Yeah.
Harper and Randy Orton won the tag titles at the time.
Yeah.
And then Bray Wyatt goes on to win the WWE title at Elimination Chamber and had a very short title run. And
Yeah.
Randy Orton, was in his playing the voices, he was playing Bray Wyatt and went on to defeat him,
Yeah.
which because of that, because they had a star in Bray Wyatt and they continuously, buried him over and over again. They give him the WWE title. We think there's hope. And then at Mania, Randy Orton beats him when a lot of people didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I have to consider that, and I got to put this Rumble win just about bearable.
Yeah.
And because I loved Bray Wyatt so much, I think I'm going to have to put it probably before Roman.
Game, bro.
We're almost getting there, man. We're close.
Let's get it, man.
All right, so now we are in the year 2018. This is now actually the first time that we had the women's and the men's Royal Rumble matches, and
Mhm.
we'll start off with the men. Shinsuke Nakamura, he wins his first Royal Rumble, goes on the WrestleMania against AJ Styles. AJ Styles beats him, Nakamura turns heel, and then there goes his momentum.
Mm.
Don't get
If
me
it was
wrong, I
if it
love
was just me,
Shinsuke.
if it was just me, I'd put Get in the Ben.
Thank
I
you. I agree with you on that one.
horrible,
You're probably surprised.
horrible, bro.
I'm gonna say over Batista only because Batista's a legend and the fact that one of the worst, things.
Yeah,
Here's why Shinsuke's got to be in the bin because he had so much momentum, putting on 10-star classics in NXT. The entrance was there, everything was there. And at
yeah.
Mania, they should have had him beat AJ Styles. But instead, not only do they have AJ Styles beat him, Danny, they also have Shinsuke turn heel when the crowd still loved him. And it was just horrible. And then
That is
after that, Shinsuke
definitely
got lost in the shuffle.
that is definitely not a recipe for success, man.
Absolutely not. And now moving on to our next one we have here is Asuka.
I would say lovely, lovely, lovely. It wasn't the best, but it was also the first time that we saw a women's Royal Rumble match, and I mean, so there still I mean, it's kind of iconic. It's the first one we've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I believe she actually went on and won the championship too, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
around this time for a little bit. But then her career, like, it really wasn't much after that, but still, it wasn't iconic, first
I
time
feel like
Women's
Asuka
Rumble.
I feel like Asuka and Shinsuke are sort of in the same boat. It's like, they had a lot of momentum going into certain situations, and then for the last couple of years, just like their momentum is just slowly, gradually like went downhill, and they haven't been able to recapture that. I don't think it was until like Pat McAfee came in
I'm
as
sorry. I'm
commentary
sorry.
for
I'm
when it
sorry,
comes.
man. I can't. If Vince McMahon being, I can't. I have to have Asuka in our right, man, just above Vince, because
Mhm,
like you have to think about her career after this. It didn't take
mhm,
off like NXT,
yeah,
and we have to consider that. So
yeah,
now getting into 2019, which are the last ones that are here on the list, but I will put the small pictures of the other ones in there that I'll just edit in there for the rest of the Rumbles. We have in 2019, the first one we're going to talk about is Becky Lynch winning, the Women's Royal Rumble. I believe she goes on and main events that WrestleMania and gets to have that iconic moment.
yeah. It was a triple threat match if I remember correctly,
It was Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch,
and
which I think
obviously
a lot
Becky.
of people were pissed off about Charlotte Flair being in that match.
Me and Ben went to the WWE live event here in Springfield back in 2019. It was a couple months after the Rumble. And bro, when I tell you there was nothing bigger than Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch at that time. Becky Lynch being the man, bro. Oh my fucking god. I literally thought my eardrums were gonna fucking burst when she
I
came
got
out.
a good spot for her. I would put her the best. I think she's the best women's Royal Rumble winner. I
Because
think
she had so much like Becky two belts, bro. Like she was fucking huge.
she was literally the Ronda Rousey of the UFC in WWE. That's how much
Exactly.
momentum this woman had during this time. And remind you, out of all four of the horsewomen, Becky Lynch was not, she was supposed to be the least, popular out of the four.
Yeah.
And I got to say, Becky definitely has to be the best. And I say over John Cena in '08,
Yeah,
just
definitely.
because of how iconic it was. Would you say over Triple H in '02 or no?
Not quite. I don't think she's really like she reached that level, whatever. But you also have to remember, like back in like '02, they were still getting, the ratings for WWE back then and in 2002 were astronomically high. Numbers that they're never gonna reach again. You know what I mean? You also have a lot more stuff on to watch nowadays, but I don't think she reached that level, but still, there was nothing bigger in the 2010s than Becky Two Belts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so now moving on to, the other winner in 2019, we had Seth freaking Rollins, baby, and he went on to WrestleMania, and this was actually the opening match of this WrestleMania versus Brock Lesnar for the title,
Yeah,
and
because
he wins.
Brock knew that he was gonna put Seth Rollins there, Seth Rollins over, and this was also before they went to 2 nights of WrestleMania. It wasn't until the pandemic era a year later to where they started doing the 2 night WrestleManias. So Brock was like, "Hey man, I don't mind dropping the title, but I'd rather do it first and then get the fuck out. I don't want to have to wait here for fucking 7 hours."
That's where like Brock Lesnar was starting to like lose like his interest in
Because
WWE
because I
until he
think
became a babyface
Because
again.
I think he after this match he went. We didn't see him for quite a while. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So,
just a little
um,
bit.
it was really iconic. You know?
See here's the problem now with Seth. They had the moment, they had everything, but when it came to booking him, what fucked it up was they tried having him and Becky do some stuff on screen, and they just didn't have the chemistry on screen. Which,
No.
they both are very happy behind the scenes. I'm very happy for them, having a family and everything now.
Yeah.
It just didn't work on screen. But with Seth Rollins, I say, because at this time they got sick of his babyface run so quick. They did a
Yep.
180 after he won the title. I have to put him under R right,
Yep.
just above bearable. Like I'm not gonna put him over Sheamus and just above bearable,
You
but I
don't want to
think
put
right
him in
next to
lovely,
Edge.
lovely, lovely.
I can't, man. He literally, as soon as he won the title, not even a month later, the fans already turned on him.
Yep.
And that's booking. That's not Seth Rollins, because if Seth Rollins was booking himself, we'd be probably putting him under the best,
And
honestly.
when we say booking, we mean Vince McMahon.
At that time, Vince McMahon. So you could blame Vince McMahon for like the last like few like wins and stuff.
Yeah, man.
All right, now I do have the list here for 2020 and above, and I'm just gonna, edit the pictures into the spots here, and we'll just say like where we have them. We can't really, move the picture into the thing, but they will be in a category. All right, so 2020. This was before the whole, lockdown, the whole pandemic thing that happened. Honestly, one of my favorite Royal Rumbles for New School. We have
Iconic for a lot of different reasons, man.
the Women's Royal Rumble 2020. Charlotte Flair ended up winning this one. Where would you put her win?
Just about bearable. I've never liked any of Charlotte Flair's booking, bro. Like she gets shoved down our throats. You know, she gets title opportunities upon title opportunities upon title opportunities. You know, she doesn't put anybody over, and it's never iconic when Charlotte Flair's involved because you already know the outcome.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Just above bearable at this point. They really didn't do much at all with this. It was just more shoving it in our faces. Ha ha, Charlotte, we can do whatever we want. And for me, I've started to enjoy her recent run a little bit, but around this time, I could not stand her at all.
And
And I actually got pissed off when she
and
won.
here's the thing too, and I'm gonna go back to how she's booked now. You know, she she's been gone for 8 months. No injury, no nothing. She wanted to go on a little vacation. She got married. She went on her honeymoon. Andrade's been back to AEW, for months now. Charlotte Flair, she just wanted to be away. She comes back, and within 3 minutes, she beats Ronda for the title. Like I said, she was gonna. I said when Charlotte comes back, she's gonna be in the title picture. I've been saying that for months.
You did predict
Um,
that. I will
and
give you that.
as much as I don't like Ronda Rousey, I much prefer her beating Charlotte. Maybe, Charlotte, winning the women's elimination chamber match and going on to, have another opportunity that way. I wouldn't have put her right back in the title picture. I really like the idea of Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler having a feud going into WrestleMania and then having them be in a fight pit match.
I did say that on my recent podcast, Hot Takes. I did say that that's like what I wanted when she made her return. So
Like
yeah, I'd say just above bearable. Now going into the men's Royal Rumble in 2020, Drew McIntyre.
I mean, I would put Lovely, Lovely, Lovely. Not quite the best. It was iconic, but I mean, the pandemic fucked this man, and he didn't have that much of a memorable title reign.
I gotta say, lovely, lovely, lovely. I absolutely agree with you because that moment where he got Brock out was great, and then unfortunately, the pandemic really took that momentum away. And it's always going to be one of those what ifs for
Mhm.
years to come in professional wrestling, with what could have been if we had a crowd with Drew as champion. I think that
Exactly.
it could have definitely been the best. But
Exactly, but
unfortunately, the pandemic, made it lovely, lovely, lovely. And I hope Drew gets back there one day. I really do.
if we were categorizing the Rumble itself, like the entire show, I'd put the best.
That was one of the best Rumbles we got.
We had the return of Edge. You know, we had Drew McIntyre winning. Like there was just a lot going into it. But when it comes to Drew McIntyre's, reign as champion, solely because this is nothing to do with Drew McIntyre. Solely because of the pandemic and them having to wrestle in a fucking empty gymnasium, an empty performance center.
Exactly.
It's not that memorable, man, and that's what fucking kills it. I hope to God this man gets another shot.
I really do too. Moving on now to the 2021 Royal Rumble. We will start this off with the women's Royal Rumble winner, Bianca Belair.
I gotta. I don't necessarily know if you would categorize it as the best or put it in lovely, lovely, lovely. I loved it though, and then she went on to WrestleMania, I believe, against Sasha Banks, and
Classic.
it was iconic for a lot of reasons. Not only Bianca's first time, having the big title, but also it was, not to play race into it, but it was two African American females, main eventing WrestleMania for the title. Like, bro, like that, that knocked down a lot of racial barriers. You
And
know
you
what I
know
mean?
something too? For me personally, that was my favorite women's Mania match of all time. I loved that match from start to
So,
finish.
so great, bro.
Why
Oh my
Sasha should be
god.
getting paid just as much as the other
You know,
four horsewomen. Sorry, Ben.
I would have to, I would have to put Bianca Belair the best.
Honestly, I'm going to agree with you, Danny, because Bianca Belair, they established a star in her by having her win this Rumble, go on to Mania, beat Sasha, and now she is one of the top baby faces in the women's division, and she's had some pretty good title runs so
Exactly,
far.
like Bianca is almost the face of the WWE.
And
She's
that's the
like
thing about me, like with her, I love her. Like I love her title run. I love her work so much. Like I'm not even sick of her title run yet, and she's had the title for so long. Like she's one of those babyface that I literally that I'm rooting for to keep the title and keep doing good. And that's how a babyface should be. That's why for her I got to put her the best. I agree with you.
I hate the fact that Vince McMahon almost nearly fucking destroyed everything that she worked for, though, with that
Mhm.
squash spot at SummerSlam.
And thank God they saved it at Mania when she beat Becky. Thank
Thank
God.
fucking God, bro.
Thank God. All right, moving on now to the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble winner. We had Edge, and he went on into a triple threat match, I believe, against Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns.
I would have to put lovely, lovely, lovely. I don't remember. I watched it, but I don't remember it, and that's the part that fucking kills me.
And if you can't remember it, I think I'm sorry, Danny, but the best spot for this Edge, great performer. Booking for me is what makes this decision
And
hard. All
I do,
right.
we do want to say, this list. None of this has to do with the performers. It's all about how they're
No.
being booked.
Well,
All
except for
the
Alberto Del Rio. He's a piece of shit.
Alberto Del Rio can fucking go eat out of a trash can. But besides him, like love everybody on this list for different
Mhm.
reasons.
Exactly. You couldn't have said it any better, Danny. I got to go all right on Edge's 2021 win because it really didn't do much. Like, it would have been something if it was Edge versus Roman, but they did make it a triple threat match for, some good reasons.
Did he
Because
even
Daniel
win?
Bryan was, leaving. Huh?
Did Edge even win at WrestleMania?
No, Roman Reigns.
There's another fucking thing.
So Edge has got to be all right due to booking decisions, I think, for this
Yeah.
Mania. And Roman's just on a legendary run right now, so you can't really take much away. But now moving on to our last Royal Rumble that we get to, rank the winners here. The men's Royal Rumble, or no, we're going to start off with the women's. The women's Royal Rumble 2022, Ronda Rousey.
This entire show getting the fucking bin, bro. This entire fucking show. It was shit from the minute it started, bro.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey getting the bin. I agree with you on that one. Just that win wasn't anything. It wasn't a needle mover. Really didn't do anything.
They spoiled all the surprises. Like, we knew what the fuck, like, everybody that was going to be in the matches, before it fucking happened. You know what I mean? Like, there was just nothing memorable about this Rumble. There was so much controversy surrounding Shane McMahon and this and that. And literally after the Rumble match, everybody in the back hated Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon ended up getting fired by his father. And, he hasn't been seen in WWE since. And, like, this entire Rumble, bro, I have to say, like, get in the fucking band. Just absolutely. Kurt Angle was supposed to be in the match, and then the last minute Vince was like, "No, why do you think he was in the fucking city? He was spotted at the hotel. Everybody was like, "Oh shit, Kurt Angle's gonna be in this match." They took him out last fucking minute, bro, and this entire Rumble just absolute fucking trash.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey, I do think get in the bin. I would put, still Alberto Del Rio's was the worst. I think Ronda would be number 2 probably for the winners.
Yeah.
But with, with editing, I can't move Ronda behind Alberto. So, but she is in getting the bin. Now, Brock Lesnar was the men's Royal Rumble 2022 winner. Where would you have that? I say just about bearable.
Yeah, it was just about bearable. Like, nothing
like, it made sense why he
went
went against Roman Reigns for Mania. It made sense because, of course, the legendary run, realistically, we're not going to see anybody else, be friggin' Roman and Brock,
But I feel like I feel like because Roman hasn't been pinned since 2019, ironically enough, by Baron Corbin was the last time that he lost.
That's insane.
I just feel like nowadays, like, it's probably going to change this Mania. Like, there's been a lot of heavy speculation about Roman dropping the titles or whatever. But up until now, I feel like, a lot of his matches have been fucking predictable. Like, he's gonna fucking win, so why even fucking
Clash
do
at the
it?
Castle, I really thought Drew McIntyre was going to until they had Solo Sikoa screw him, which was a good spot to add him into the bloodline, but it did suck not having that moment.
I would just have to say, like, bro, like, this, again, get in the bin. Like, this entire fucking, the entire Rumble last year was just absolute dog shit. Like, there was nothing memorable about it. And that's just me speaking facts. And I'm pretty sure there's not going to be anybody that sees this video that's going to disagree with me.
100%. So, guys, that was all, the ranking. That is what we ranked each Royal Rumble winner as. Let us know in the comment section below how you guys feel about where we rank these winners. Where would you personally rank them? And also let us know if you guys want this Rank 'em series to be live, because we're always open to doing, live streams and stuff with you guys, interact with you guys. I think like that would be pretty interesting.
I feel like with ranking videos, it'll be easier to do live because we'll be able to get other suggestions and other people's opinions or whatever, like stuff that maybe we can't remember or whatever. Maybe somebody else in the live chat will be able to be like, "Oh no, this is what," you know what I mean? I just feel like it'll be a lot more. It'll be interactive. It'll be funner, so. And less editing that you have to do. So
yeah. So if you guys enjoyed the first episode of Rank 'em, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not, we are Wrestling Maniac yet already. Subscribe, turn on the post notifications. The link's down in the description below. You can go follow Danny and I on our social medias and other YouTube pages. All that down below. In addition, if you want shorter clips of We Are Wrestling videos. You know, we're posting clips here on the channel and shorts on, you know, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All the links down below. And of course, we'll see you guys tomorrow with our Royal Rumble 2023 predictions. Because of course, you already know we are taking over. Peace.
Go and vote on the community tab, man. What Rumble are we
1999.
gonna watch?